What is the most Karen thing a Karen has even done to you? Personally, working retail one afternoon and here comes Karen with a return. At first glance it's no big deal, just coming in to return a shirt. She walks up to the register, hands me the receipt to start processing and we exchange a pleasant greeting. I take the shirt out of the bag to examine it and it is beyond disgusting. There were brown sweat stains all over it, from the pits to the stomach to the shoulder. It looked like whoever wore it rolled in mud or some nonsense. I proceed to tell Karen that I cannot return the product because it had clearly been used and that only unused and resellable items could be returned. Karen threw a fit, started screaming at me and accusing me of calling her a liar and whatnot. I hold up the shirt and point to the brown pit stains and say, Karen, can't you see this stain? Oh man, did that make it worse? She continues making a huge scene and demands to see the manager. Newsflash, Karen, I am the manager and I'm not budging. After 20 or so minutes of complaining she finally leaves saying she'll be complaining to corporate and getting me fired and blah blah blah. Fast forward a few days, a guy walks into the store, finds the first store associate he can and immediately asks for me by name. Oh, here we go again. Anyway, my associate bring the guy over to where I'm standing and I politely greet him. The guy spends the next 10 minutes apologizing for his crazy wife Karen verbally abusing my staff and I a few days prior. Apparently, the guy went to the beach and did some type of CrossFit HIIT training class in the sand. Karen knows all of this. She was at the class with him. The guy ended up not liking the shirt for some reason and Karen thought she could pull a fast one on us by making a scene. Think again, Karen. In tech support, this Karen had started a PowerPoint presentation, saved it, gave it a name, worked on it for 8 hours, closed it, and when the program said do you want to save changes said no. So the program did what it was told and dumped them, and surprisingly when she reopened it was blank. I explained that she told it not to interrupt. No, that is not acceptable. You will fix it. No, there is no interrupt. Go around this circle several times. I finally call the on-call support for her company and explain what was going on. Have you ever had someone roll their eyes so hard you could hear them over a phone? Then conference Karen, who started right in before either of us could say anything with how incompetent I was etc etc. He let her burble for a minute then cut her off. She started squawking and he cut her off again, and again, and again until she finally shut up out of sheer surprise, I think. Screeching like a harpy didn't work. What world is this? He explained to her the same thing that I had, and she started yowling again and he chopped her off. Number, you've wasted my time on my day off, working as a favor to people with actual problems, and you've wasted tech support's time. You were abusive to both of us and I'm going to report you to HR in the morning. Goodbye. Click. He hangs up. And I'm laughing my butt off as she spits and sputters like an engine that just got a good solid swig of water. Note, in this particular version of PowerPoint from decades ago, early 1990s, while it did have autosave, the autosaves were both unreliable and automatically deleted when you closed the program. Microsoft wouldn't support anything over 25 slides, and hers was over 250. I met plenty of Karens while working retail but there's one who stands out. Karen was Indian and had the most entitled attitude of anyone I've ever met. She was also a regular customer so we had to deal with her crap at least twice a week. Karen's favorite pastime would be to literally fill a trolley with clearance items. These are a nightmare as you have to reduce the price on the till manually. Management were worried about scanning fraud and so had disabled the multiplication button on the till. This meant that each item has to be scanned and discounted individually. Once all of her items had been scanned and discounted, Karen would always kick up a fuss over the price, accusing us of overcharging her and demanding to see a manager. Some managers would give in to Karen, which meant voiding the transaction and starting over. If they told Karen to get lost, she'd complain about never shopping here again and storm out, leaving a full trolley of goods to put back. Thanks B. Either way, the entire shitshow would take at least an hour. There was a nice moment of karma for Karen however. One winter, we had an especially heavy snowstorm. Our policy in this case is to clear the car park access to the spaces closest to the door. We do this as very few people come out when it's snowing and it lets people park as close as possible. Not Karen though. Oh no. She pulls into the car park, drives into the uncleared section and tries to drive through a snow drift, hitting a covered bollard in the process. She then clomps into the store, demands to see the manager and proceeds to yell at him point blank. Apparently she was going to sue us and get every employee fired for not clearing her usual parking space of snow. Our manager responded by banning her from our store for being abusive towards staff. The craziest thing in life is that she was alone. Watch her be a fully normal, competent person in her personal life. I dated a girl 3 months until I learned she was a psycho when calling customer service. It was pretty disappointing. You think you know someone. When I worked at a grocery store, I had a woman throw a conniption over a coupon. So, here's the skinny. The coupon was for half off a bakery cake. Our bakery cake. As in you can walk in the bakery, grab a cake we have made, and buy it. This is what the coupon was for. Well, Karen 5000 went to the frozen food section, got a frozen Sara Lee cake, and wanted to use the coupon on that. Now, I explained how the coupon worked to her, and keep in mind, this was not a tricky coupon. There was no fine print. It wasn't one of those gotcha moments. It was a very clear coupon in that it was abundantly obvious it could only be used in our bakery. Well, she threw a fit. She hooted and hollered. She demanded I give her the coupon anyway, but there was literally no way for me to do that without manager override because I was a peon. So then she insisted that I get my manager. Works for me. My manager comes up and, to my delight, it's Adam. Now, Adam is useless. He can't figure out how to do crap. I'm not entirely sure how this guy still has a job. So, she's screaming at him to give her the discount. But he can't figure it out. It's probably the simplest manager override function he'd need to perform. And he can't do it. So he suggests she buy a bakery cake for the coupon price. She sneers and says, I need a cake that says happy birthday. None of those cakes say happy birthday. What am I supposed to do about that? So I said, buy some icing and write happy birthday yourself. That did it. She left shouting at us that we lost a customer. Doubtful, since she had an account at our store and had been shopping there since the Stone Age. I hope that, in her darkest moments, when life seems cold and dreary and the world is against her, she thinks of me, she sees my face, and she suffers. Name change for safety of idiot manager. Sound like Karen met Kevin. During the 2009 recession period, I worked at Best Buy while I was between real jobs. At the time, the website and the retail stores were run by separate business entities, so it was often that store and web prices differed. But the store policy was to always match. One night a couple comes in. Karen asks for a 500 millibar Seagate hard drive. I asked, did you mean gigabyte? Karen, I know what I want. Just show me where it's at. Me, no problem. Hard drives are over here. Karen, what the heck? This drive was $50 cheaper online. Are you trying to rip me off? Me, just a minute. Let me look it up. I find a Western Digital that is on sale. Me, looks like it is this drive that is on sale for $109. I don't remember the numbers now. Karen, can't you read? The tag says $159. Me, yes, I can give you this drive for the $109. It matches the one online. Karen, fine. Call your manager or whatever you have to do. We didn't need a manager for .com matches. While doing the register stuff, Karen says to her husband, this is probably going to take a while. They never know what they are doing. So we get to payment and Karen gives me a Visa. Now, out of habit, I ask for an ID. Karen, are you kidding me? You are not authorized to require an ID for a purchase. That is Visa's policy. I am going to have this store shut down for such a ridiculous requirement. Blah blah blah. While she prattled on, I finalized the transaction, put the drive in a bag, and handed it to her without looking at her. I did look at the husband, who had been silent the entire time. He slowly glanced down at the ground and followed her out. On the way out, she, of course, asked to talk to a manager. So two things about the situation. 1. She is correct. Visa, at least at the time, did not require checks. However, merchants were permitted to ask. I did give a thought to making a scene out of it, because 2. It was my last night. The managers on duty got a good laugh out of her. Not really Karen, more like entitled parent, but I see no difference. So if you're from Illinois, you know that softball baseball is huge there. Like everybody plays it, even if you're not athletic you've tried at least t-ball at some point in your life. My little sister's HU softball team made the championships in our in-house league. Essentially a league of like 5-9 teams that all played each other for a title at the end. My dad was the coach, and my sister's team, first place overall, and was playing the second place team in the championships. It was like the last week of June, so it was hot as heck outside. The other team they were playing had some buttholes for parents, like record-breaking buttholishness. Every time a call didn't go in their favor, correct or not, but in this case maybe like 3-ish calls the entire game were bad. Which is not bad at all considering it was a 15-year kid umping the game. Every single time one of their players gets called out, boo. One pitch is called a strike, boo. My dad, at the time, was the president of the league, and often spotted runs and such to the other team because in his own words, they wouldn't shut the heck up. They were down by 10 so spotting them a run here and there wouldn't hurt. But long story short, at the end of the game he was booed off the field by the parents at a 8U softball game. 8-year-olds who are in like 2nd grade, Jesus people. Then after the game, the two teams were celebrating at Dairy Queen. Obviously not together. Then one of the moms from the other team comes up to me and my dad and says, "You and your other butthole coaches cheated, and it was not a fair game. If I ever find out that you're working with children again, I'll call CPS and let them know what you're up to. People like you are what's wrong with America." Note, my father is black, so that last line was relatively offensive. Used to work at Walgreens in the photo department and I was a huge stickler for not selling professionally done photos if they didn't have a release from the photographer. This one lady brought in a boudoir set that I'm certain nobody wanted to see, but they were clearly professional. I wouldn't sell them to her. Told her she could get a release from the photographer and come back. Immediately indignant. Exclaimed, "I'll email him right now." She did. Few minutes later, she makes a phone call, walks 1 aisle away from me to take it. Now is yelling at the guy saying he screwed her over and why did you give me a CD with the pictures if I couldn't print them, and then my favorite line, "No, you're cheap, I was losing it in the photo department." Goes on for a couple more minutes, then she storms over to me again and just goes, "Gimme my pictures, mom, you clearly don't own the rights to these. I'm not going to sell them to you, go get your manager." Sigh. I walk to the office and talk my manager, tell her everything. We laugh, but ultimately my manager was a pushover most of the time. Not this time. She walks out with me and now we are both telling this lady off. She starts to accuse me of being a pervert who just wants to keep them for myself. Yeah, nah. But ultimately, the manager, just to get her out of the store, says that instead of them going in the bin with all of the other no sales to be counted in the morning and shredded, she'd shred them right then. Of course this is this lady's only win for the day, so she takes the deal. She stayed there while my manager shredded them. These freaking stories happened every goddamn day. I work at a casino now and I saw far more scum of the earth trying to frick over professionals there at the job at Walgreens than I ever see at the casino. And frick any of you who ask why did I care. Those people don't do photography for fun. It's their freaking job. If you want prints done, either pay them for them, or pay for the rights to the digitals. And you photographers, if someone does have your permission to do as many reprints as they like, freaking give them some kind of written or digital permission. That way the person who prints those photos can say they saw the slip and are absolved of any responsibility brought about by reprinting. According to Walgreens policy, if the photographer found out the photos were reprinted, my store and I could each be responsible for damages to their income for having printed them. I work in a dentist, booking appointments. A mum was bringing her autistic son to an appointment. I barely remember the phone call, but she asked if there was parking, to which I said there is opposite but can get full quick. About 2 weeks later her son's appointment comes up. She doesn't turn up, but 10 minutes later, calls to say she can't make the appointment. Was promised parking but was no parking available. Told her she wasn't promised parking and asked where she is. Turns out she drove past the clinic, couldn't find a driving spot, drove to the other side of the city to park. to call to cancel. The phone call went on along the lines of, "You lied to me. How dare you do this to my autistic son? I want to make a complaint as you're discriminating." After a few more cusses, I apologized if she was offended. To which she goes, "That's not an apology. I want an apology." Never gave her one. "I want your manager's name. You need to go on a customer support course." I'm pretty chill, so I never talk back or raise my voice, but she just went on and on and on. I was working a back drive at a fast food joint years ago, and older Karen comes driving in to give her order. Now, this location doesn't have a speaker due to a neighborhood ordinance, so all the orders and drive-thru are taken face to face. She orders a double cheeseburger without onions, and I ring it in, complete her order, and send her on her way. About 5 minutes after she's picked up her food, she comes back through drive-thru and says they put onions on my burger. I apologize. Print her up a duplicate receipt to confirm to her and myself that I rang it in without onions. I then tell her that if she goes up to the front window and tells the manager who's working up front that they'll replace the burger for free made correctly, but that I can't do anything about it back here. She does so and they give her a brand new burger and an apology. I thought that was the end of the situation, but boy was I wrong. Karen called the state government on me, by name, demanding I be fired. If I recall correctly, I was told that she called the food safety department, the Chamber of Commerce and the governor's office. The franchise owner called to say that it turned out that Karen is allergic to onions, and she straight up accused me of deliberately ringing her sandwich in wrong and trying to poison her, then printing up a false duplicate receipt of her order to make her look like a liar. Keep in mind that I read the receipt back to her and she confirmed it was her order. I didn't get along with the manager who was working at the time, but even he was like, "That's complete bulls. It wasn't even his mistake, it was the kitchen's and we fixed it for her." The franchise owner was told by whichever branch of the state government called them that Karen had demanded that I be fired. I wasn't even written up, but I did stop wearing my name tag at work when I could get away with it. TLDR. Got the state government called on me by Karen because the kitchen messed up an order, which got replaced free of charge. Could have been fired for a mistake that wasn't even mine. I used to run a childcare site for after-school care at a swanky Christian school. We also had a summer program. During the summer, we had a field trip to one of those giant arcade-type places with a pizza buffet. All the parents sent baggies full of quarters for the kids to play with. One first-grade girl opened up another kid's backpack and took her quarters out. Both of the girls approached me and the one said, "Stacy took my quarters out of my backpack." I said, "Stacy, did you take quarters out of her backpack?" She nodded yes. I said, "Okay, I'm going to need you not to touch anyone else's backpack again for me. Your mom sent lots of quarters and they're in your backpack. You'll all have plenty to play with." Well, the policy of the organization I work with says that if you discipline a kid about anything, or tell their parent about an incident, you have to write it down. I wrote like 100 of these a week. It was no big deal. They occasionally came in handy to have documented behavior to talk to parents about patterns and problem solving. Well, when I told her mom and gave her the form, she demanded that I change the verb stole to took. She was like, "I will not sign a legal document saying my child stole 8 quarters. It has to say took." I'm like, "Okay, so I change it. Then, I get an email the next day formally requesting all copies of this form to be turned over to the parents and the document be struck from the record because she isn't confident that proper research was done and possibly her daughter never took anything to begin with. Okay, lady. So my company basically told me not to say anything and they'd contact her. She never said anything else about it again. They told me that they assured her that it was for our record keeping only and wouldn't follow her daughter in any legal sense. Male Karen story. I worked retail for a bit in the kitchen section of a department store. A middle-aged white guy comes in and goes up to the stand for most ridiculously overpriced kitchen equipment. A line run by a guy whose name sounds like Schmeston Schmumental, and demands a knockbox. A knockbox, for all you normal people out there, is a small box that matches your coffee machine that you can empty your used coffee grounds into. You then empty the box into the bin. I am not sure of the point of this, but he really wants one. My colleague says, very politely, "Oh, we don't sell those, but you can get them online." He loses his crap, calls her incompetent, yells how can it possibly be that this is the brand section and yet they don't stock every single item that brand has ever made. He wants one now. Why can't he get one now? This isn't what he expects from this store. Where is the manager of this terrible employee? A manager comes over and gently reiterates that he can totally get a knockbox. Just online. Hey, they can help him do that right now if he wants, but it's no use. He is hopped up on Class A entitlement and will not be calmed. Where is he going to put his coffee grounds? In the bin? Like some peasant? No. He's never shopping here again and storms off. Finally, the manager turns round to the rest of us. What a dong, she says. When I worked at Subway, a Karen came in and ordered a foot-long meatball sub. Problem was we were currently in the middle of a crazy and unexpected rush, and didn't quite have enough meatballs left for a foot long. We were only short like 1 or 2 meatballs. I let her know this, and said I could put what was left on there and charge her for a 6-inch. At the time she was fine with this. About 15 minutes after I should have left, I was still dealing with the aftermath of the rush when this Karen comes back in. She starts complaining that her foot-long meatball sub didn't have enough meatballs on it. Here's the thing. She didn't have the receipt so I could show her that she was only charged for a 6-inch, and she had already eaten the sub. It's not like she came right back in and said this sub here in my hands doesn't have enough meatballs. It was like 30-45 minutes later and the sub was already eaten. After trying to explain all this to her, she's now screaming in my face. Admittedly, I may have started yelling back at her at this point. Eventually she threatens to sue the store and leaves. At least there was a fun ending. The next day I get a call from the area manager who had heard from this Karen. At first I was a little worried, but then she goes, I reviewed the footage from the cameras. I think you handled it pretty well. If I were there I would have jumped the counter and decked her. Picture this. You're a teenager working in a grocery store in late hours closing up the meat department. Your job is to clean the place and occasionally help a customer with some of the pre-prepared meats and find what aisle has what. The time is now 8:30 p.m. The store is dead quiet, and you're wrapping up your cleaning work and shift, just making sure everything is shiny and chrome, and rinsing off the last sudsy dredges from off the butcher tables. You're content with the way the soapy surfaces appear to be nice and clean under what's left of the still soaking tables. Enter Karen. Stage left. Karen. Hey, can I get a ribeye cut to about 3 inches thick? You. No, I'm sorry ma'am. We can't cut anything. The butchers leave at around 6 p.m. But I'm happy to. Karen. What do you mean you can't cut meat? Aren't you a butcher? You. No ma'am. I'm the after hours clerk. But I can take an order for you for first thing tomorrow. Karen. This is an outrage. Are you open right now? And is this the meat department? You. Internally dart, oh boy. Here we go. Yes ma'am. The store is open, but the meat department closes at 6 o'clock except for the pre-prepared meats and orders. Karen. I drove from place an hour and a half away, and now you're telling me you won't cut meat, even though you're open? You. Preemptively. I'm sorry ma'am. If you would like, I can call the store manager, but the department is covered in soap. There's nothing we can do tonight. Karen. Yes. Call him right now. I want to speak to your manager. Of course. Enter. Store manager in a suit and tie. Stage right. Explanation of situation. And general rudeness from Karen. Manager. We'll get that sorted for you right away. Your name. Please get the ribeye and take it to the back. You do so reluctantly. Manager with hairnet on stopping mid-stride at seeing the disassembled and soap-covered department. Manager walks back out to Karen, who is waiting triumphantly. Manager. I'm sorry ma'am. We can't cut this tonight, but I can take an order for you for first thing tomorrow. You. Fassapin from out of sight. Q. Slap sound MP3. Manager and Karen argue unintelligibly as the stage darkens. End. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.